All right, I've got your market update through the end of August 2025 for the Boise, Idaho area. And here's the top three things we're going to be talking about. Number one is inventory, as always. It's actually up year over year pretty significantly, but we're down month over month. So what does that mean for you? We're going to look at the average sold price, and then we're going to look at the median price point for sold, active, and pending. And then lastly, we're going to be taking a look at absorption for each of the price points. So if you want to know more about that, watch the rest of this video. All right, let's dig in. As always, we like to go into this inventory because so much to do with what's happening in our market is going to be driven by supply and demand. So I predicted this increase from June to July. I figured we'd actually be up, even though a lot of agents said inventory was coming down. I figured that would be up. I took that victory last month. And if you go watch that video, you'll actually see that I predict we're going to be flat or down through the month of August. A couple reasons why. One, rates have actually ticked down. They've gotten a lot more aggressive. So the thing that I like to point out is, as of right now, when I'm recording this, it might be a unicorn day, but it's Monday, September 8th. And rates right now, we got conventional rates at 6.1%. We're even getting FHA rates in the low 5% range. This is without buy downs. This is without any sort of seller concessions. The rates are very, very, very positive. So if you are a buyer, this is probably one of the best times that you could purchase real estate in the last 5 years. There's a lot to choose from, and the pricing, it's still a little high, but your rates now, your affordability is actually coming a little bit more in line. It's the best, like I said, in about 5 years if you look at that affordability index. So, we still could use a little bit more relief, but this is really good if you're a buyer because of those rates ticking down. So let's keep looking at this inventory number. I was right again. I'll take the victory because they don't always come that way, but we went 1363 down to 1299. A lot of that is we're through the end of the month in August, and a lot of people are going to take their home off the market, because of the schools. They're trying to move before school gets in. That way they're not having to shift schools during the school year. And rates tick down. So we're seeing, a little bit more activity. As we look at the pendings here, you can see we had 571 pending in July. We had 559 in August. Year over year, it's almost identical. The amount of pendings we had in August year over year versus August of 2025, 557 versus 559. Sold, though, we have 593 actually closed in August versus 527 the same time last year. And so what do we expect going into September? Personally, I would expect more of the same. You're going to see inventory continue to go down, in my opinion. And a lot of this inventory is going to get bought up with rates coming down and then just people taking their homes off the market. So I promised we'd look at sales price. Let's scroll down on this chart here. You guys are aware that you can get access to these charts. We can send them out to you. You can reach out to your favorite City of Trees real estate agent. We'd love to share them with you. We have these for all the counties. We have them for specific areas inside of each city. So we can go as granular as Northwest Meridian or Southeast Boise or whatever market you might want. So let's look at the pricing, though. You can see our average sold price for 2025 is $619,000. That's up 1.4% year over year. We are at 610 this same time last year. And then you come over here, we have the median prices. So the median active listings, 600,000. Now, this is interesting because the median pending price is 549, and then of course the median sold over the last 12 months is 525. All that I would take away from this is you have a lot of people that are triers. So there's plenty of sellers out there who are looking to get their home sold and they're trying their best, and maybe they're hiring their agent saying, yeah, if you can get me $1 million, I'll take it. Now, those triers often have to yield to sellers. Sellers price their homes properly, they market them properly, and they're in good condition, and they get their homes sold. The biggest piece of advice I could give you is have your agent look at what has sold. What we typically do, a lot of people don't understand how we come up with valuations. Of course, the market drives your value. What someone's willing to pay is ultimately what your home's going to sell for. We can't predict that. We come up with the best range given the resources we have and the direction the market's going. And, when we help roughly 400 families per year buy and sell real estate right here in the Treasure Valley, we have a really good idea of where the direction's going. So in a normal market, when the inventory's balanced, that's typically between 5 and 7 months of supply. There's not a ton of this configuration that we need to figure out. In a seller's market, when inventory is super low, that's a seller's market. Typically, in our market, that's under 2 months supply. That ends up being a seller's market. Usually you can kind of just look at what the sold history was and you can price it at that or maybe even a little bit higher. Now, when you go into a buyer's market, which we've been toying with at different price points and at different times with rates being where they're at, what ends up happening is it's less about what happened in the last 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. And it's much more about what's happening today, meaning active listings. You are entering a competition as a seller. And every single week, if we just pick a certain price point and a certain range, there might be 100 homes on the market at that price point, and maybe 15 of them sell. And if 15 new ones come on the market every single week, if you're not in the top 15, right, the top 15%, you're probably not selling. And so we have to consider the competition when we're going to get your home sold. That's the seller versus the trier. And a lot of this requires you to have an agent that understands what they're doing. So it's critical that you interview agents for the job of listing and selling your home. It matters a lot. So not just their knowledge about the market and their ability to market, which we do very well at City of Trees. It's also their ability to be available to handle those phone calls that come in on Zillow or the sign calls that come in on the signs. These are important pieces because when a buyer's out front and calling on the sign and someone can't take their call right then, they drive to the next home, that person takes their call and they go buy another house. It sounds crazy, but that's how a lot of this works. Like someone's driving by, oh, I wonder what that's worth. Oh, they didn't answer. And then they go to the next one. They're like, I wonder what this is worth. And then that agent that gets a hold of them finally can take them wherever they need to go. We've developed a system at City Trees Real Estate to be able to handle all of those calls in a very timely manner. Try it out. Give any of our numbers a phone call and see if an agent answers during business hours. We'd love for you to give it a shot. So let's continue to look at some data here. Just looking at these numbers of absorption rates here. I'm going to zoom out. It's going to be hard to see, but I'll just kind of talk you through it. So if you get under 350,000 in Ada County, you're at 2.1 months supply or less. Really, if you get all the way up to 800,000, you're less than 3 months supply. That is still a pretty decent market for a seller. Our market's been a little confused though. It's not our traditional 5 to 7 months. Like I would say if you're under 2 months, it's a seller's market. If you're between 2 and 5 months, it's a kind of a balanced market. If it's over 5 months, it's definitely a buyer's market. So when you start to look at these numbers here, we have to get all the way up to 1.5 million before you get over 5 months. So right now, if you're over 1.5 million, I would definitely consider it a buyer's market. Buyers in that price range are going to get to negotiate more. We can take a look at their numbers here. It looks like they're getting 97.9%. So they're getting 2 or 3% off the purchase price. You get up over 2 million, they're getting 4% off the purchase price. So there is a little bit more room. If you get above like 800K or under, they're getting 99%. So don't expect to negotiate a ton as a buyer if you are in that price range. Now, there are builders that are offering significant incentives right now because they want to make sure that they don't get caught in case, the economy is a little tricky. They want to make sure they don't get caught with a lot of inventory out there. So they are moving product, and we're seeing some builders offer massive incentives. If you want to know what those are, again, reach out to your favorite City Trees real estate agent. We can walk you through all of the builders and what they're offering and who's got the best. So that's it for me. This has been your August update through the end of August 2025 for the Boise, Idaho real estate market and surrounding areas, really all the Treasure Valley. We have these, like I said, for Ada County, Caney County, Gem County, Elmore County. We have got them for all the counties. So if you want any of this info, give us a shout, comment in the in the YouTube comments, or reply to this email if you got this email from one of our agents. We'd love to get you taken care of. So thank you guys so much for trusting City of Trees Real Estate for all of your Boise area real estate needs. It truly means the world to us. Our agents are rock stars. Give them a shot.